My name is Scott Saumsielgle. I've always been a passionate person about being outdoors and serving others. My family, they're first on my list, is obviously some of the things that I care deeply about, and watching them progress and grow with my kids and my wife. Life before my injury was very fast paced. I was in a career where I jumped on an airplane twice a week. I always sought out vacations like outside the beaten path. I always wanted to either hike a big mountain or kind of going those small little paths in the adventure world where not many people travel. But, I always did know to stop and smell the roses. And at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure I saw the sunset or witnessed something really nice in the world or in that day. My injury occurred on March 28th of 2020. So as you know, COVID was just kind of ramping up. And luckily I'm a very active person. I've always been in great physical shape. And I was outside doing yard work with a neighbor, and he's an older gentleman and he heats his house with wood. And I've got a kind of a bigger yard with a lot of woods in my yard. And I was looking at a tree and I said, "Hey, Rich, would you like this tree? We can cut it down together and you can have all the wood, because I know you like to burn wood for your house." He agreed. And this is something I've always done. I've always done tree work. I've always done outdoor stuff. And we had to cut down a big limb in order to get the tree down itself. And I went up the ladder with a chainsaw and we set everything up right. And long story short is I cut this really big limb that was the size of a tree. And I was probably 25 feet up in the air, and everything went great. Holding onto the tree in one hand, chainsaw in another. The branch came crashing to the ground spectacularly, and everything looked fine. I kind of looked over at my neighbor and thumbs up. And what I didn't realize is when the branches came down to settle, it must have lifted everything up and clipped my ladder. Because the last thing I knew is I was in the air with a chainsaw in one hand, my hand waving in the other. And I looked down at the ground and all of a sudden it just came right up. That's when I fell. I suffered from a T12 burst fracture at that point, paralyzed from the waist down. Right after my surgery, when I woke up and I couldn't move, and I couldn't move anything for days. And at this point, I was starting to get really kind of depressed, saying, I guess I'll never walk again. The surgery didn't work, but I can see, I can breathe. At least I'd be able to see my kids graduate or, get married. Was just happy to be alive. I have a set of twins that are 16 years old. I have an older daughter, a year and a half older. She's 18. She's first year in college. And again, everyone had been remote at that time, including my daughter staying home from college. I was just afraid of I'm going to be in the hospital. Remember, no one could come with me. I was alone for the whole 7 weeks. I was in the hospital and rehab hospital because of the COVID. And I just had to kind of let everything go and just realize that everything is going to be okay at home. They're going to figure it out. But the best thing is, they stepped up. My son, my kids, they cared so deeply, and, it really cemented the bond of family, and, seeing what my kids have become so great. Support came in from my work, people in the community, people I hadn't heard from in a long time. That lifted me in ways that I can't even explain. It just gave me a sense of, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to get through this better than I can. And eventually someday I'm going to give back. I'll never forget, I'm in my wheelchair, and when they wheeled me down to the gym for the first time, now I'm very strong and fit upper body wise. So when I got under those parallel bars and a team of 3 therapists rolled me into the middle, and of course I can hold myself up, no problem. They said, 1, 2, 3, we're going to stand. And as I rose out of that chair, and pretty much I held myself up the whole time, but I looked down and watched my legs stand up, and I couldn't feel anything. And they said, "Okay, try to step." I tried to step, but they had to actually move my feet. And when I watched my feet hit the ground, I couldn't feel it. It was just the most, sad but amazing feeling. And I said to myself, no way, I'm going to make it all the way to the end of these bars. And I got 4 steps in, and I was physically almost exhausted at that point. And I had to sit back down. And then when I wheeled back to my room, I burst into tears. And even though I stood and I got up and it was progress, I was defeated even more. But then I would quickly snap out of it and be like, all right, that was 4 steps. I'm going to do 6 tomorrow. The smallest gains were still a gain. And I knew that I could keep pushing. And I've just never fought so hard in my life to keep going. And I look at my results now, and I've come so far. This injury has taken me to places where I never thought I would go, with really just studying nerve regeneration, how the mind works, how, your brain is always telling you, like, don't get out of bed. Why would you? It's warm, it's comfortable. And you have to push those thoughts ahead and get yourself out of bed every day. And then when I was in a wheelchair, getting around, getting strong, I was starting to practice doing wheelies, and then just hard work. One thing led to another, where I started to move and I got on a walker and my nerves regenerated, just in my specific case. I work in the healthcare industry, and I put myself now in a different perspective. I've been that patient in a way. And so I see some of the things firsthand, the small things that might go unnoticed, the way care is. So I feel like I'm going to really be able to give back in a different way, in a different perspective, like in my work moving forward. Like I want to go around to hospitals and talk to people who are newly injured. So there's a purpose that has come differently into my life. So in the hospital, I didn't have a mentor. It was my physical therapists that were my love-hate relationship mentors, just in the fact of how much they push you. But God, physical therapists don't get enough credit and recognition. They're amazing. My family, actually, my son was a big mentor to me. He was kind of telling me, Dad, just be patient. Don't worry. It's going to work out. Because I used to say that to him as a kid, like, don't get frustrated, be patient. And I love that role reversal. Speaking to someone newly injured, my advice would be, listen, first of all, it's okay to feel down, to feel sad. And that's okay. And that's natural. But my advice would be also to accept it for now, but also then to try to defy it. And then you'll conquer it. Really understand your body, like learn as much as you can about the human body, about the mind. The more you are in touch with your body, the better you're going to do, I think, in recovery. It's going to be patience. And you have to always be motivated by any kind of small gain. You have to measure your success, look by the week, because maybe during the day or each day you won't see much gains at all. But if you measure your hard work by the weeks, you're going to see a difference. And then that will keep you motivated to keep pushing forward.